Why had the valley claimed so many men? Why did it swallow whole squads of America's most elite, leaving behind nothing but echoes and questions? She asked herself that as the cut through the thin Afghan sky. The vibration thrummed through her bones, steady and hollow, almost like a heartbeat that had already decided to fail. Lieutenant Colonel Blackwood sat with her hands clasped lightly in her lap, her face calm, eyes fixed on the mountains rising in jagged teeth ahead. To the soldiers across from her, she looked like any other paper pusher from Washington. Average height, average build, middle-aged, hair pulled into a no-nonsense bun. Nothing to mark her except those eyes, piercing blue, patient and unyielding. They didn't know what to make of her, and maybe that was for the best. Somewhere in the valley ahead, two men were missing. Navy SEALs. Collins. Time was already running out. Everyone here wanted answers. Why 3 SEAL teams had walked into the same canyon and never come back. Why men who could navigate by the stars had suddenly lost all sense of direction. Why operators who never missed a shot had fired blind, walked into ambushes, broken formation like children wandering into traffic. And why Lieutenant Colonel Blackwood, someone the Pentagon had labeled an assessment specialist, had been sent into the heart of it. The helicopter tilted, preparing to descend toward forward operating base horizon. Below, prefab buildings sat huddled in dust like weary travelers refusing to leave. Razor wire glinted under a sun too bright to forgive. Blackwood watched as figures in uniform carried stretchers toward a waiting vehicle. She didn't need to ask what was draped beneath those flags. 4 more SEALs who wouldn't be going home. 4 more families who would receive folded letters, and the same tired words about sacrifice, duty, and freedom. She closed her eyes briefly. How many times had she written those words herself? Too many. The helicopter kissed down, sending a storm of grit spiraling into the air. Soldiers shielded their eyes as the bird squatted low, rotors whining, and then she was on the ground, boots steady, back straight, her single pack slung effortlessly over one shoulder. They were watching her. She felt it in the way conversations trailed off, in the way young soldiers leaned to each other, whispering judgments about the middle-aged woman walking toward command with a folder under her arm. That folder didn't matter. What mattered was the scar she carried inside, the knowledge of what had already happened in Bosnia, in nights where smoke carried the sweet almond stink of a chemical no one admitted existed. Lieutenant Colonel Blackwood. She turned. Colonel stood waiting, posture sharp, gray threading his temples. He saluted. She returned it with precision. "Welcome to Horizon," he said. His voice was steady, but his eyes betrayed fatigue. Flight was uneventful. "As uneventful as flying over Taliban territory can be," she said, her tone soft but edged with steel. "I'll need to see your tactical operations center immediately. I understand 2 men are still missing." Blinked. He had expected pleasantries, maybe small talk, the measured pace of analysts. He hadn't expected someone who moved like she already knew time was bleeding out. "Yes, ma'am," he replied, recovering quickly. 2 operators, missing 72 hours. We've been holding off on sending another team after what happened to this unit." Her eyes shifted. The man who had led 12 into that valley and walked out alone. "Then I'll need to speak with Lieutenant right away," she said. "And I'll need every after-action report, every comms log, every scrap of detail your team's filed." Hesitated only a fraction of a second before nodding. "I'll have it ready." As they walked toward the command center, she scanned the base with practiced eyes, firing arcs, rooftop positions. She counted 3 sharpshooters the briefing never mentioned. Every detail was filed, always. She felt someone watching, not with curiosity but recognition. Her gaze swept and caught Master Sergeant James Cooper standing in the shadow of a supply tent. His face, creased, weathered, unreadable, went pale for half a heartbeat. Then he turned away. She saw his lips move, though the words were for no one but himself. "She died in Mogadishu," he muttered. Her pace never faltered. Inside the Tactical Operations Center, the air was thick with stale coffee and exhaustion. Maps pinned on walls. Red strings and pins marking disaster after disaster. Men hunched over radios, their faces tight, waiting for news that never came. Lieutenant Michael stood with his back to the door, staring at a map of the Overlook Valley. His scar twitched slightly when he turned to face her. His eyes, hollow, sunken, studied her as if she were a puzzle he didn't want to solve. "With respect, ma'am," he said before she spoke, his voice carrying the edge of grief. "We don't need an assessment, we need men. Air support that doesn't take 40 minutes to arrive. Intel that isn't garbage." Blackwood didn't flinch. "I'm not here to count shell casings or tell you how to fight, Lieutenant. I'm here to understand why 12 of your men died 3 days ago in a valley that should never have surprised them." His jaw clenched. His silence was its own admission. Beside him, Master Sergeant Ray, the medic, weathered calm, eyes like an old mountain, offered her a nod of respect. "Tell me what you felt," she said quietly. "Not just what you saw. Sometimes the body registers truths the mind doesn't." Exhaled, his gaze dropping to the map. His voice cracked once, but he didn't stop. He described confusion spreading through his team like an infection, men firing at shadows, compass needles spinning, a fear so deep it made seasoned warriors freeze like children. Then the ambush, clean, precise, merciless. Not Taliban, not local militia, professionals. Her expression never shifted, but her hand tightened on her pen. Bosnia. The almonds stink. The screams of her own team tearing themselves apart in the dark. She pushed the memory away. "What about the air currents in the valley?" she asked. "The thermal shifts." Blinked. "The valley makes its own weather. Cold air sinks at night. Warm air rises during the day. Sound carries strangely. Gunfire echoes." She nodded, tracing her finger along the map, finding patterns invisible to others. Ambush positions weren't random. They were designed to use wind and acoustics as weapons. Suspicion deepened. "How would you know that?" She didn't answer. Instead, she reached into her jacket and set a worn leather wallet on the table. It fell open. He glimpsed an old photograph, women in civilian clothes standing before an unmarked building. Faded ink scrawled across one corner, Athena 1991. Her hand closed the wallet quickly. The mask returned. "I need to speak with every survivor," she said, "and I need to see every piece of recovered equipment." She didn't add the rest. That somewhere in this valley, the ghosts of Bosnia had risen again, and that if her suspicions were true, the trusted officer who had dismissed her warnings for months was already in the middle of it. Outside the command tent, the mountains waited, silent, watching, and she knew the trap was already set. What did it mean to save a man's life but stay hidden in the shadows? Was it mercy, or was it another kind of cruelty? The question stayed with her as she stood in the dim quiet of the medical tent. Machines beeped softly, marking the fragile rhythm of men who had walked into a storm they couldn't understand. Petty officer lay propped up against thin pillows, his torso wrapped in bandages, his face pale but alert. His eyes followed her as she sat down beside him, pulling a chair closer with a scrape against the floor. "Who are you?" he asked, suspicion wrapped in exhaustion. "Lieutenant Colonel Blackwood," she said simply. "I'm here to understand what happened in that valley." He laughed once, dry and bitter. "Another investigation. That makes 4 now, maybe 5. None of them believed us." "I believe you," she said. Her voice was quiet, but something in it made him pause. He studied her. "You do, don't you? You've seen it before." She didn't answer the way he expected. Instead, she leaned forward and asked, "Tell me about the smell." His body stiffened, breath catching. "How the hell do you know about that?" "Just tell me," she pressed gently. Swallowed, his voice dropped to a whisper. "Sweet, like almonds, but not right, wrong somehow. I smelled it just before everything went to hell. Thought maybe it was local plants, but then the guys started acting strange." "What kind of strange?" Johnson thought we were being followed, swore he saw shapes moving behind us, but there was nothing. Martinez couldn't read his compass, needle just spun and spun. And me, his voice broke. His eyes glistened. I froze, not combat fear. Worse, like being a kid again, thinking monsters were under the bed. Couldn't move, couldn't breathe, just, his hand trembled. Terrified. Her eyes softened. She let the silence hang for a moment, giving him space. Then, gently, and that's when the shooting started. Nodded, from everywhere, perfect crossfire. Guys just walked right into it, like they couldn't even see the danger, like they were sleepwalking. She made notes, her mind racing. Did you report the smell? He barked a humorless laugh. Of course, and Colonel was right there listening. He suggested I might need a psych, said maybe I imagined it. Her pen stilled. And after you got back, your uniform, your gear, was it examined? Frowned, thinking. Yeah, had the NBC team check it all, said it was protocol. She closed her notebook and stood. Thank you, petty officer, you've been helpful. He called after her as she reached the tent flap. You know what it was, don't you? You know what happened to us. Her back was to him, but she let her voice carry softly. I have a theory, but I need more proof. Will you tell us, he asked, almost pleading, when you know for sure? She turned her head just enough for him to see her profile, her expression unreadable. Yes, you deserve that much. Outside, dawn pressed pale light across the base. Lieutenant waited for her, jaw tight. He didn't waste time. Learn anything useful. Perhaps, she said, your men smelled something sweet before losing control. Almonds. His eyes narrowed. I smelled it too, reported it, and let me guess, said local vegetation. Her lips curved in a humorless smile. Because that's what they always say. Always. She stopped walking, turned to face him fully. Lieutenant, I need to level with you. I believe your men were exposed to a chemical agent, something designed to affect spatial awareness, cognition, even fear response. It doesn't kill outright, it incapacitates. His disbelief was immediate. A chemical weapon here, that doesn't make sense. It does, she said, her voice low, if you know where to look. This valley, it isn't just terrain, it's a laboratory. Someone been testing a compound here. On your men. He stared at her, horror flickering behind the hard lines of his face. And I think he's feeding mission details to whoever's running these tests. In Bosnia, we called them Unit 113. They've been developing this kind of agent for over a decade. Bosnia repeated slowly, studying her. You've seen this before. Yes. He rubbed a hand across his face, as if trying to scrape away the truth. If what you're saying is true, then every mission we've run into that valley has been compromised from the start. Before she could answer, approached, geared up. Teams assembled, final briefing in 10. Nodded, we'll be there. He turned back to her. This conversation isn't over. No, she agreed softly, it's just beginning. As the men moved toward the operations tent, she broke away. Something gnawed at her, a shadow she'd felt since stepping off the. She found him exactly where she expected, in the supply tent, waiting. Master Sergeant James Cooper. Their eyes met. His face was carved with years, but behind it fear, recognition, and something else. I wondered when you'd come, he said quietly. Hello, James, she answered. It's been a long time. Not long enough. He glanced toward the flap to make sure no one was listening. His voice dropped. They said you died in Mogadishu. I saw the report. Reports can be lies, she said evenly. So can people. His eyes hardened. What are you doing here, Sam? Or is it Sarah still? It's Blackwood now, and you know exactly why I'm here. His shoulders sagged slightly. It's happening again, isn't it? Like Bosnia. Yes, but this time it's refined, stronger, and they're using American operators as test subjects. His voice was barely a whisper. Unit 113. You remember, she said. How could I forget? They killed your whole team, everyone but you. "And you," she said softly. He froze. "What are you implying?" She stepped closer, her eyes steady. "Someone betrayed us that day. Someone told them exactly where we'd be, and you were the only support team member who walked away untouched." His hand twitched toward his sidearm. "You reported me dead in Mogadishu," she continued. "I've never set foot in Somalia. The only way you spread that lie is if you were already working with them." The silence was sharp as glass. His hand hovered near his weapon. Her body was calm, coiled. Finally he exhaled, a subtle smile ghosting his lips. "You were always too smart for your own good. That's what got your team killed in Bosnia, and it'll get you killed here." "So it was you," she said. The words carried no triumph, only the weight of confirmation. He laughed softly. "You think this is about money, always so small. This is about the future, weapons that can stop wars before they start. Why kill when you can turn entire armies into helpless children? That's power." Her voice cut like steel. "In Bosnia, I saw men shoot each other in confusion. I saw trained operators walk into machine gun fire like sleepwalkers. That wasn't mercy. That was slaughter." "Progress takes sacrifice," Cooper said. Knew it, and so does." "So this mission," she asked, her voice level, "is another sacrifice?" A smile spread across his face, cold and predatory. "No, this one is special. This one is about you. Been waiting. He never forgave you for Bosnia. Today he'll finish it." Her heart beat steady, but her mind raced. Still alive, still pulling the strings. And she asked, "A good soldier, a pawn, he doesn't ask questions. That's what makes him useful." "You're wrong about him," she said quietly. "And you're wrong about me too." His smile deepened. "We'll see in the valley." She left him there, his eyes following, heavy with betrayal. Outside, dawn bled across the peaks. The valley lay waiting, silent and cruel. Soon, she knew, they would all walk into it. And only one truth would come out alive. Why did the traps always feel invisible until it was too late? Why did every step toward rescue feel like a step deeper into someone else's design? The questions whispered inside's head as he stood in the operations tent, helmet tucked beneath his arm, listening to Colonel outline the plan. His voice carried confidence, each word precise, measured, almost rehearsed. The map behind him showed the Overlook Valley spread wide and merciless, 3 access points marked in bold red. "Alpha Team, led by Lieutenant, will take the eastern approach," explained. "Bravo Team, under Master Sergeant, will enter from the south. Charlie Team, Lieutenant commanding, will establish overwatch from the west." His jaw clenched. The plan looked neat, too neat. Standard doctrine, standard insertion. But the valley had already chewed through standard. He glanced at Blackwood, sitting quietly in the back, her arms folded, eyes fixed not on the map but on the men listening. She wasn't studying the terrain. She was studying reactions. His words rolled on. "Intelligence suggests and Collins are alive. Hostiles are holding them near the fortress ruins at the valley's center. Rescue must be immediate. We insert at 0600. Apache will be on standby, response time 15 minutes. 15 almost laughed. In Overlook Valley, 15 minutes was forever. Questions came, sharp-eyed, suggesting alternatives. Wilson asking about air support. Each met with calm, dismissive authority. Timelines don't allow it. Assets stretched thin. We move now. Blackwood's gaze flicked toward, sharp, meaningful. She was already thinking what he was thinking. This wasn't a rescue plan. It was a death sentence wrapped in briefing slides. When closed the session, men scattered to check gear. The ritual of preparation began, rifles stripped, mags counted, body armor adjusted, lingered at the back. Blackwood stepped to him. "This mission is being rushed," she said in a low voice. 15 minutes of planning for terrain that's killed 30 men already. That's not procedure. It's design." He studied her face. She wasn't panicked, she was certain. "Then why go?" he asked. Her reply was quiet, steady. "Because if we don't and Collins die, if they're not already dead. Approached, gear strapped, secure. "Lieutenant Colonel," he said, nodding. "Teams ready. Injectors distributed like you asked. Told the boys it was prophylactic for local toxins. They bought it." "Good," she said. "Keep them close. The compound won't kill you fast, but it'll strip away your mind before you know it." His weathered eyes lingered on her. "You've seen this before." Her silence was confirmation enough. Across the tent, beckoned aside. Blackwood pretended not to notice, though every sense sharpened. "Lieutenant," said smoothly, "I'm concerned about Colonel Blackwood. Her behavior is erratic. She's making unusual claims. Chemical weapons, conspiracies, even implying collaboration here within Horizon." Said nothing, his face blank. "I've seen this before," continued. "Intelligence officers too long in the field, they start seeing ghosts. They endanger missions. Keep an eye on her, Lieutenant. Her instability could cost lives." Gave the kind of answer that sounded loyal but meant nothing. "I'll watch her." Smiled faintly. "Good, bring our boys home." As turned away, his stomach twisted. Two people, both calm, both certain, telling him opposite truths. He didn't know who to trust, but he knew the answer waited in the valley. Outside, dawn cracked the horizon. Sat ready, rotors ticking impatiently. Operators moved like shadows across the tarmac, checking gear with muscle memory honed by years of survival. Blackwood walked among them. No analyst's uniform now. Combat pants, long-sleeve shirt, plate carrier strapped tight, her hair braided back, every movement efficient, economical. The mask of bureaucracy had fallen away. What remained was an operator. Approached her quietly. "Watching you from the comm tent, hasn't taken his eyes off you." She didn't look. "Of course he hasn't, his game depends on me." "You think believes you?" "He believes something's wrong, that's enough." Moments later, himself strode onto the tarmac, his face polished, his posture perfect. "Comm checks complete. Whether optimal, operation is a go." He approached her, lowering his voice. "Colonel Blackwood, I understand you've been making unusual accusations. Bosnia, chemical agents, alleged betrayal." "Not accusations," she said. "Observations." He smiled, thin and cold. The pressure of combat distorts perspective. People see patterns that aren't there. Sometimes accidents happen. "Is that what you told yourself in Bosnia?" she asked, her voice flat. "When you sold out a NATO team to?" For a fraction of a second his face cracked. Then the mask returned. "Be careful, Colonel. The mountains are unforgiving of mistakes." She gave a ghost of a smile. "On that we agree." When they rejoined the teams, caught her eye, she gave the smallest nod. Yes, was dirty. The rotors thundered to life. Alpha team boarded first, Blackwood and his medics. Bravo filed in next, Charlie last. Inside the chopper, briefed quickly. "Standard operating procedure ends the moment we touch down. Stay tight. Communicate. If you feel disoriented, speak up. We adapt fast or we die." A young SEAL named glanced at Blackwood. "Sir, what exactly are we expecting? Briefing didn't cover details." Looked at her, the floor was hers. "You'll smell almonds," she said, her voice carrying over the roar. "Sweet, wrong, then confusion, fear, irrational panic. The injections you've been given will help, but they won't save you. Awareness is your shield. No, it's not natural, fight it." The silence that followed was heavy. Operators exchanged glances, some skeptical, some fearful, but all listening. Minutes later, the mountains opened beneath them. The valley stretched wide, a bowl of rock and dust by history, its ridges jagged, its floor scattered with ruins older than memory. "LZ in sight," the pilot called. 2 minutes. Through the open door, Blackwood stared down at the ground where her past waited. She remembered Bosnia, the screams, the smell, the faces of men lost to madness. She remembered his eyes as he watched, not with rage but with pride in his creation. Her grip tightened on her rifle. Today they would meet again. the descended in a swirl of grit. Alpha teams spilled into the eastern pass, securing the perimeter as the bird lifted away. The sound of rotors faded, leaving only silence. The valley waited. "Move," ordered. They advanced through the pass, 30 meters wide, walls rising like jagged tombstones. Blackwood's gaze swept upward. She saw it instantly. A natural chimney in the rocks, perfect dispersal point. "Ridge line 2 o'clock," she murmured. "That's where I'd place the device." Nodded, signaling to keep eyes on it. The team pressed deeper. The valley floor spread before them, a patchwork of stone, sparse vegetation, ruins of a fortress crumbling with time. Then's fist shot up, "Halt." Two figures moved in the distance, stumbling, worn uniforms. Lifted his binoculars, Collins. Hope and suspicion warred in his voice. Blackwood took the glass, her eyes narrowed. The men's steps were too steady, too synchronized, not exhaustion, not survival. "Bait," she said. His voice hardened, "most likely." He keyed the radio. "Bravo, continue to phase line Alpha. Charlie, hold overwatch. Alpha will observe." Charlie acknowledged. Then gunfire erupted in their channel, sharp, precise, relentless. His voice cut through the chaos. Multiple shooters pinned down. "Bravo, divert to support," ordered, but Blackwood grabbed his arm. "This is what they want, splitting forces, chaos. I won't leave my men to die. I'm not asking you to divide, send half to support. We keep moving, and Collins may only have minutes." His hesitation was brief. Took half the squad toward the firefight. Blackwood and 3 others pressed forward. Closer now, they saw the figures stop, resting by a fallen column. Parker, one of the operators, muttered, "Why rest there? No cover. They want us to see them." "Because they do," Blackwood said. Her hand went to her mask. "Stay alert for the smell." 50 meters, and Collins stood suddenly, moving like puppets with broken strings. "That's them," said, "but something's wrong." They reached into their uniforms. Metal glinted. "Grenades," Parker shouted. Smoke erupted, thick white-gray, curling through the valley. The almond scent rode on it instantly, seeping into masks, burning into memory. Blackwood's voice was steady through her filter. "It's in the smoke. They're delivery systems, and Collins are being used as carriers." The 2 men collapsed, unconscious or dead. It was impossible to tell. And then the sound came. Rotors, not Apache, lighter, Russian. And Mi-17 swept into view, banking low, descending toward the valley floor. "Not Taliban," muttered. "No," Blackwood said, her eyes fixed on the side door sliding open. Figures poured out, disciplined, silent, moving with professional precision. Unit 113. And then among them, a silver-haired man stepped down, posture calm, presence commanding. Blackwood's breath caught. Looked at her, the commander. Her voice was ice. "Yes, the one who killed my team." Their eyes locked on the man below, unaware that the trap had already closed. Why did the air itself feel alive, like it wanted them broken? Why did the silence in the valley sound almost human, as though it was listening, waiting? The smoke clung low, curling through the ruins like a living thing. Masks filtered some of it, but not all. The faint almond sting burned in throats, settled in lungs. Men coughed. Some blinked too fast, their focus slipping, hands twitching against their rifles. Barked a reminder, stay tight, stay sharp, but his own voice betrayed the weight pressing down on him. Blackwood moved steadily, eyes fixed on shape as he strode across the dust. He was older now, silver hair cropped, face weathered but sharp as a blade. His uniform carried no insignia, no flag, just the quiet authority of a man who had spent decades in shadows. She remembered the last time she saw him, years ago in Bosnia, when fire painted the sky and screams drowned the radios. He had watched her team die with fascination, not hatred. And when her rifle jammed, when she thought she'd be next, he had simply turned away, leaving her alive. Why, she never knew. Until now. Raised a hand. His men, 8, maybe 10, fanned out silently, rifles raised. The Me-17's rotors faded as it climbed away, leaving dust and dread behind. Cursed under his breath, not militia, professionals. Blackwood's voice was steady. Unit 113. He glanced at her, and you know them how. Her eyes never left, because I was supposed to die by their hand. The exchange ended when a sharp crack split the valley. A round smacked stone inches from Parker's head, showering him with fragments. Contact. The ruins erupted. Gunfire echoed off the canyon walls, every shot doubling, tripling, disorienting. Echoes folded in on themselves, making direction impossible. Seals fired back, but their aim scattered, chasing sounds that weren't real. Mask discipline, shouted. Stay focused, don't breathe deep. But already the compound worked. Staggered, clutching his chest, swearing his vest was on fire when nothing touched him. Another SEAL turned, convinced someone behind had drawn a bead on him. His rifle shook in his hands. Blackwood pressed her mask, her breath controlled. She felt this before. In Bosnia, the almond smoke had made men kill each other before the enemy even fired. She would not let it win again. Eyes on me, she shouted over the comms. Her voice cut sharp, anchoring them. The echoes lie. Focus on movement, not sound. Trust what you see. Through the haze stood calm, watching like a conductor at an orchestra. When he finally spoke, his words carried easily, unnervingly clear despite the chaos. Samara. Her blood chilled. No one had used that name in years. Not since before Bosnia, before she buried that part of herself. Why now? She muttered under her breath. What did he call you? Asked, firing short bursts toward shadows. She didn't answer. Stepped forward unhurried. His men held position. He didn't need to raise his rifle. His weapon was already in the air around them. You should have died with the rest of them, he said, voice carrying like a sermon. But fate spared you. Perhaps it knew we would meet again here, where fear makes gods of men. She steadied her rifle, sights hovering over his chest, but her finger froze, not from hesitation, something deeper. Memory. Bosnia, standing the same way, untouchable, while her team screamed and tore each other apart. Noticed, take the shot, he growled. She didn't move. Smiled faintly. You remember, good. Then you understand why resistance is hopeless. These men will break before me, just as yours did. Not today, she said softly. A shot rang out, not hers. His rifle barked, grazing one of his men, dropping him to the dirt. The valley exploded in response, Unit 113 opening fire in disciplined bursts. Bullets chewed stone. Dust blinded. Fall back to cover, ordered. They scrambled, ducking behind shattered walls. Blackwood dropped beside him, chest heaving. The almond sting was thicker now, clawing at her thoughts. A whisper edged in, run, hide, surrender, but she forced it down. Leaned close. What the hell is happening to my men? Neurological agent, she rasped. Not lethal, but it feeds panic. Echoes paranoia. That's why your teams lost cohesion. And him jerked his chin toward. He designed it. The lieutenant's face hardened. Then we end him. Before she could answer, Parker screamed. He ripped his mask free, clawing at his face. They're in my skin, he howled, thrashing. Pinned him, forcing an injector into his thigh. The tremors slowed, but Parker's eyes stayed wide, haunted. It's in me, he whispered, voice broken. Blackwood's chest tightened. Bosnia again. Men begging her to kill them before they killed each other. Her earpiece crackled. From Overwatch, voice panicked. We're pinned, 3 down. They knew we were here before we moved. Swore they're reading us like a book. Because someone's writing it for them, Blackwood said bitterly. Feeding positions, feeding lives. As if on cues, calm voice slid through the comms. Alpha team, report status. Keyed as mic. Engaged, heavy fire, compromised positions. A pause, then's reply too calm. Understood, hold your ground. Blackwood's eyes narrowed. No reinforcements ordered. No extraction. He was waiting for the valley to finish the job. We're expendable, she whispered. Heard, his face went pale, then hard. Gunfire eased, shifting to suppression. His voice cut again across the haze. Samara, enough. Drop your weapons. Tell them to stand down. You know what happens if you don't. You've seen it. The SEALs froze, even faltered. The authority in his tone, cold, absolute, pressed down like the smoke itself. Muttered, he's not even shouting. Why does it feel like an order? Because she thought he wasn't just using gas. He was using memory, trauma. He knew how fear lived in the brain, and he was pulling every string at once. And then, as if to mock them further, gave the command every SEAL knew, the one drilled into their bones from Bud S to battlefield. Drop your weapons. Her blood ran cold. The words hissed like venom, echoing across the valley. Some of the SEALs twitched, fingers loosening. Their training betrayed them, conditioning twisted into a trap. Even hesitated. His rifle dipped slightly, muscles warring against will. But Blackwood Samara stood. Her voice cut through the valley, sharp as steel. No. Head snapped toward her. Evan's calm wavered for half a breath. She stepped forward, rifle steady, mask filtering, but eyes unflinching. You want them broken. You want them like Bosnia, but not this time, not my men. Not your men, echoed. You barely know them. Why bleed for them? Because someone has to. Her words struck harder than any bullet. The SEALs straightened, rifles gripped, shook off the fog, anger sharpening him again, muttered a prayer under his breath. Smile faded, his hand rose, his men weapons. And in that moment, she knew, the valley was about to burn again. What does courage look like when the ground itself turns against you? What keeps a soldier standing when even memory tries to drag them down? The valley answered with silence, a silence that pressed harder than gunfire, heavier than artillery. It was the silence of men holding breath, waiting for the first shot to decide which side would own them. Blackwood stood at the front of the formation, rifle raised, her mask fogged faintly by measured breaths. Her voice lingered still in the air, defiant against command. No, it had broken the spell if only for a heartbeat. But's hand remained raised. His men aimed with the calm of executioners. Do you feel it, Samara? His voice carried like a sermon. That pressure in your chest, that whisper in your mind, it isn't just the compound, it's your past. Bosnia never left you. Her finger twitched against the trigger. For a moment she saw them, not but faces long gone. Mason, her spotter, eyes wide with terror before he turned his rifle on himself. Firing wildly into smoke, hitting friends instead of foes. The compound had ripped them apart but had written the script. Her stomach tightened. The weight of that memory clawed at her ribs. His voice snapped her back. We can't sit here, he gestured toward their flanks. If we let them box us in, it's over. Barked, movement left. His rifle cracked, dropping a shadow slipping through the haze. Gunfire erupted again, sharp bursts from both sides. This time it wasn't echoes. Bullets chipped stone, cracked pillars, sparked against shields of dust. The SEALs roared, fighting not just enemies but the fog clawing at their minds. Blackwood dropped to a knee, sighted, fired. One of his men crumpled. She shifted instantly, fired again. She moved like muscle memory, a rhythm she thought she had buried. But with every trigger pull, the compound pressed harder. You're too slow, you'll fail them too, they'll die just like Bosnia. Hold the line, his voice cut through. A grenade clattered nearby. Blackwood grabbed Parker by his vest, yanking him behind cover just as it detonated, dust and shards biting the air. His eyes were wild, fear still in them. I can't, he stammered. You can, she snapped, gripping his collar. Fear lies, stay with me. Something in her tone anchored him. He nodded, rifle trembling but steadying. Advanced slowly, unhurried amid chaos. His men pressed the flanks, hurting, not rushing. It wasn't about winning quickly. It was about shaping them, bending them like animals in a pen. "Do you see Samara?" he called. "They fight bravely, yes, but the valley is mine. I own every echo, every shadow, even your memories belong to me." Her hands shook, anger or fear she couldn't tell, but beneath it a seed of defiance pulsed. Crawled to her cover. "We can't outlast them. They've got position, numbers, and whatever the hell this gas is. Options." Her eyes darted across the terrain. The ruins ahead rose higher, a broken tower half standing, half rubble. She pointed. "High ground. If we get there, we control sight lines, force them into the open." "It's exposed," argued. "It's hope," she countered. He nodded sharply. "Cover, Alpha bounding right, move." The SEALs surged, leapfrogging under fire. Smoke trailed, bullets chased, but they pushed. Blackwood ran with them, lungs burning, past clawing, future uncertain. She refused to look back. They slid into the base of the tower, breath ragged, hearts pounding. The structure loomed above, stairs shattered but climbable. "Pointed up, we hold here, by Bravo and Charlie time." "If they're still alive," muttered grimly. Blackwood checked her mag. Half gone, no room for waste. She glanced at the men. Exhausted, gasping, masks smeared. Fear hung heavy, but so did resolve. Then's voice came again, closer now. "Do you think this tower will save you, Samara? Bosnia had towers too. They crumbled just the same." Her chest tightened. The image flashed, her old team, pinned in a bell tower, compound, thick men shooting shadows until the stone itself collapsed around them. She shook her head, forcing the memory away. "Stay sharp," she told the men. "He wants us trapped in ghosts." A shot cracked, dropped, screaming, leg torn, dragged him back, applying pressure, blood soaking fast. Blackwood's hands moved instinctively, helping. Tourniquet high, twist, knot. Grip crushed her wrist, eyes wide with terror. "Don't let me go under," he begged. "Don't let it take me." "You won't," she whispered, voice steady though her heart trembled. "Not while I'm here." Gunfire flared again. Shouted orders, men firing disciplined bursts. The tower shook with impact, dust raining from its cracks. Then, through the haze, stepped into view, closer than before. He stood in the open, calm, unflinching, as if bullets themselves bent around him. "Drop your weapons," he called again. This time his voice pressed harder, as if the very compound carried it into their veins. Parker's rifle lowered involuntarily. His hands shook. "Sir, I can't." Blackwood lunged, grabbing his weapon, shoving it back into his grip. "Fight it." That's not his voice, it's your memory twisting. He can't own you unless you let him. His eyes found hers. A faint smile curved his lips. "Still fighting the inevitable. That's what I admired about you. Even when you broke, you never surrendered." "Admired," she spat. "Yes, you were proof. Proof that the compound could bend but not quite shatter. I've refined it since. Your friends here will not be so lucky." Her anger flared. "You killed them, all of them, for science." "For peace," he corrected calmly. "Do you not see? Fear is more powerful than bullets. If you can make an army drop its weapons without a shot, isn't that mercy?" "Mercy?" Her voice cracked, louder now, trembling with rage. "I watched men beg for death. I held their hands while they screamed. That wasn't mercy, that was slaughter." Something inside her shifted. The crack of pain widened into steel. She rose from cover, firing with precision, each shot snapping across the ruins. Two of his men fell. She didn't stop. She moved like a storm breaking loose. Years of buried grief turned to fire. The SEALs, their confidence anchored by her defiance, roared, emptying a mag into shadows. Cursed but smiled grimly, fighting harder. Only stepped back slightly, his men absorbing the storm. His voice cut again, calm, unbroken. "You still don't understand, Samara. I didn't spare you in Bosnia because you escaped. I spared you because you were the proof I needed. Proof that fear could be weaponized but not perfected. You were the flaw I had to fix." Her breath caught, the truth slid in sharp as a blade. He hadn't failed to kill her. He had chosen not to. She wasn't survivor. She was experiment. The ground seemed to tilt beneath her. Rage and despair collided, threatening to crush her. But then's bloodied hand gripped hers again, eyes pleading. His voice cracked over comms, shouting orders. Jaw clenched, holding the line. They weren't Bosnia, they weren't ghosts, they were here, alive. She forced her breath steady, voice carrying over gunfire. You made a mistake. Many times can a soldier be broken before they stop being whole? How many times can a memory be replayed before it stops being memory and becomes prison? The questions gnawed at Blackwood as the tower shook around them. Dust rained from the fractured ceiling, bullets cracking stone, men groaning under wounds and fear. The SEALs fired in bursts, disciplined but strained, their formation thinning under the weight of both enemy and toxin. She pressed her back against a crumbled wall, rifle steady, breath shallow behind the mask. Bosnia was clawing at her ribs again, threatening to drag her under. She had seen this before. A tower, men dying, his voice like scripture in smoke. The cruel made her fingers tremble against the trigger. Shout cut through the haze. We can't hold this position much longer, he pointed to, who was binding another wound with bloody hands. We've got 3 down, ammo low. We need extraction. Blackwood's voice was sharp. Extraction isn't coming. He stared at her. What the hell are you talking about? It's not sending birds, she said bitterly. He's waiting for us to vanish. That's the plan, clean hands. His head snapped up, eyes furious. You saying command sold us out? I'm saying command already signed your death certificates. Before could argue's voice rose again, closer now, calm as ever. She tells you the truth. Command doesn't want you. They want the results. They want to see how long you last before fear eats you alive. His face hardened. He didn't want to believe it, but belief wasn't the same as recognition. Deep down, he knew. Parker broke the silence, his mask fogged with frantic breath. He's right, we're abandoned, we're already dead. No, Blackwood snapped the word, her voice like iron. She grabbed Parker by the harness, forcing his wide eyes on hers. Listen to me. You're not Bosnia, you're not a lab rat. You're a SEAL. You fight until you choose to stop, not until he decides. Do you understand me? Parker trembled, then nodded weakly. Her grip loosened, but her eyes burned into his, refusing to let him go under. Gunfire thundered again. A wall cracked. Groaned, pale from blood loss, cursed under his breath, ripping his last field dressing open. Ammo's low, muttered. He checked his mags, 2 left. Blackwood's were nearly empty. The tower would not hold. And then stepped into view again, closer than before. The haze curled around him like he owned the air. He raised no weapon. He didn't need to. His voice did the killing. You feel it now, don't you? He said, tone soft, almost kind. The tightening chest, the hands that shake, the thought whispering that surrender is easier. That is the truth you deny. Fear is your master, not me, not her, fear itself. Some of the SEALs shifted, their rifles wavering. Even stance faltered, a flicker of doubt across his features. Blackwood's chest heaved. For a second she felt it too, the urge to let it drop, to breathe deep and just let go. But she remembered Mason again, his last words, whispering for release as he pressed his rifle to his own temple. She remembered the way he had looked at her before he turned his barrel toward teammates instead of enemies. She had lived their surrender. She would not repeat it. No, she said again, louder this time, her voice carrying through the chaos. Tilted his head, amused, still clinging to defiance. Admirable, but pointless. Do you think you can change their minds when even yours betrays you? Her breath hitched. He wasn't wrong. Every beat of her heart hammered with the weight of panic pressing down. Every breath tasted of almonds and old ghosts. And then's hand gripped her shoulder, steady, grounding. His eyes met hers. Tell me what to do. She blinked. What? You've been here before, you've seen it. Tell me how to beat it. Her lips parted, words caught. She wasn't used to someone asking. In Bosnia, no one had listened. They had died screaming before she could speak. This time she had a chance. She forced her breath steady. We don't fight fear with fear. We fight it with each other. Eyes on your team, not the smoke. Anchor in the man beside you, not the echo in your head. Nodded, he shouted across the ruin. You heard her. Anchor in, watch each other. Trust the team, not the ghosts. The SEALs straightened, rifles steadier, breaths more controlled, barked, eyes on me, and dragged a wounded man closer to cover. Even Parker's trembling slowed, his hands tightening on the rifle grip. His eyes narrowed slightly, a crack in his calm. You can resist for a while, he said, voice lower, now almost intimate. But the valley eats everything. It ate your team before, Samara. It will eat these men too. You'll watch them tear each other apart again, and you will break as you always do. Her jaw clenched. You're wrong. Am I? His gaze pierced her. Do you want me to remind you how Mason begged, how wept as he pulled the trigger? I can give you their voices back. Would you like that? Her breath faltered, the smoke seemed to shift, and then she heard it. Mason's voice. Sob, not memory, not imagination. The compound was twisting sound, using the past as weapon. Her rifle lowered slightly. Her vision blurred. She was slipping. Then's voice cut sharp, loud, human. Colonel, don't give him that. He doesn't own those voices. They were ours. The spell snapped. She blinked hard, breath ragged, focus returning. His face was smeared with blood and dust, but his eyes burned steady. For a moment she wanted to weep. He was right. Those voices they were hers to remember, hers to honor. Her rifle lifted again. But the reprieve didn't last. Gunfire surged, heavier now, as if it had given a silent signal. Bullets hammered stone, men cried out. The tower groaned. Shouted, we're collapsing if we don't move. Where? Demanded. Blackwood scanned fast. The western wall was fractured, an opening leading to the outer ruins. Exposed, yes, but movement was survival. There, she pointed. Nodded, cover fire, move on my go. The SEALs unleashed a wall of fire. Dust and sparks filled the air, hauled onto his shoulder, dragging Parker behind. Blackwood covered, rifle snapping until the last round clicked dry. Go! They spilled through the gap into the ruins, scrambling across broken stone. The compound clung, whispering, dragging at lungs, but momentum carried them. Then came the whistle. A mortar round screamed, slamming into the ground ahead. The shockwave hurled them off their feet, ears ringing, dust blinding. Blackwood rolled, coughing, vision swimming. Lay nearby, still on his back, blood soaking his uniform. Groaned, trying to push himself up. And through the dust, shapes advanced. Unit 113, moving with cold precision, rifles raised. Followed behind, calm as ever. His voice floated over the ruin. End it, Samara. Don't make me waste more of them. Tell your men to drop their weapons. Tell them to surrender. Spare them Bosnia's fate. Her chest heaved. Was down, Parker barely conscious, struggling under weight. Her rifle was empty. Options bled away with every second. She could order surrender. Save them from breaking apart, from reliving the nightmare she had once endured. It would mean capture, maybe worse. Or she could resist and watch the valley take them one by one. Her throat tightened. This was the impossible choice she had feared all along. She raised her empty rifle, defiance burning through tears. No. His eyes narrowed, his voice losing its calm for the first time. Then you've chosen their deaths. And the valley roared alive again. His brow lifted slightly. You think fear is the strongest weapon, but it is. It's memory, and memory is mine. Bosnia isn't your victory, it's my fire, and it ends with you. For the first time, his smile faded. The SEALs pressed harder, bullets shredding dust, pushing Unit 113 back step by step. The tower shook with the storm. And in the chaos, Blackwood knew, the kill zone wasn't just around them. It was inside her. If she couldn't master it now, would win without firing a shot. What does the edge of endurance feel like? Is it the crack of a bone, the tearing of flesh, the moment when the rifle won't lift one more time? Or is it quieter, the slowing heartbeat that whispers you've gone far enough? The ruins swallowed them. Dust curled in clouds, thick as fog, choking lungs, stinging eyes. Blackwood's empty rifle clattered against her chest as she dragged to cover. His leg bled heavy, torn open by shrapnel. Parker lay nearby, dazed, his mask cracked. Stumbled forward, limp across his back, blood soaking them both. The SEALs who had once moved like shadows now limped like ghosts. Precision replaced by desperation, discipline cracking. Yet they moved still, because stopping meant death. Men advanced methodically, not rushing, not reckless, just pressing step by steady step. They fired in controlled bursts, herding them deeper into ruin, driving them exactly where wanted. And himself, he followed like a shadow, calm, untouched. Not a speck of dust clung to him. His voice carried over chaos with chilling clarity. Your strength is admirable, Samara, but look at them. Every step they break further. How many more will you sacrifice before you admit the truth? Her hands trembled as she reloaded with scavenged rounds, but she forced the slide home. As many as it takes to stop you. He tilted his head as though studying a child. Do you believe that, or do you tell yourself that so their deaths will weigh less? The question cut deep. She had no answer. Gunfire flared again. A round slammed into stone inches from her face. She ducked, heart pounding, roared, unloading his last mag until the rifle clicked empty. We can't outshoot them, he shouted. We're boxed in. We're not boxed in, she rasped. Not yet. But even as she said it, the ruin betrayed her. The walls narrowed, funneled. The only way left was deeper into the heart of the old fortress, a kill chamber. And knew it. He raised his voice again, calm, steady. Drop your weapons. The words hissed through the haze, worming into ears, into muscle memory. Hands twitched. Parker's rifle sagged. Evan's grip slipped before he snarled and forced it back up. Don't listen, Blackwood shouted, her voice raw. That command belongs to you, not him. You hear me? Yours. Her chest heaved. Every breath felt like glass, but her voice cut through enough. The rifles steadied again. His faint smile never left. You think words can save them, but words crumble, fear endures. The SEALs stumbled further into the ruins, deeper into the trap. Blackwood's boots hit broken stone steps leading down into a courtyard littered with shattered statues and half-buried bones. The history of another war staring back at them. She felt the weight of it. Generations of battles fought and lost in this place. How many had walked into this courtyard believing they could defy fate? How many had died under the same sky? But she couldn't stop, not now. They fell into cover behind what remained of a collapsed fountain. Propped himself against the stone, pale, eyes glassy. Dropped gently, checking his pulse. Weak. Fadding. Parker pressed trembling hands to his cracked mask, trying to seal it with cloth, his breath ragged. Blackwood crouched low, reloading with shaking hands. Her eyes burned, not from smoke alone, from the weight of failure pressing closer. His voice floated down from above. Do you remember what you whispered that night in Bosnia? I do. You begged for silence. You begged for an end to the screaming. Do you want me to give that back to you now? Her throat closed. She had whispered that. Alone in the rubble, surrounded by bodies, she had begged for silence, and had given it by leaving her alive among the dead. She clenched her teeth, forcing the memory down. Not this time. Her voice cracked, but she steadied it again. Not with them. Gunfire shattered the moment. Unit 113 swarmed the edges of the courtyard, rifles blazing. Stone cracked. Bullets sparked. One SEAL screamed, hit in the side, crumpling. Dragged him back, cursing, blood slick on his hands. Blackwood fired, each shot deliberate, forcing herself to ignore the whispering compound in her veins. Shadows fell, but more came. Always more. Her earpiece crackled faintly. A voice, weak, broken, Colonel, we're gone, they overran us. I tried to hold, sorry. Static swallowed him. Her chest clenched. Overwatch was gone, no more eyes above. No more cover fire, just ghosts in the ruins. Spat blood, eyes burning. Then it's just us. Yes, she said, voice firm though her heart trembled. And that's enough. But was it? She glanced at. His face was streaked with dirt and blood, exhaustion etched deep. Yet he met her eyes with the same defiance she clung to. Then stepped into view at the courtyard's edge. Calm, unhurried. His men fanned around him like wolves circling prey. Enough, he said simply. The compound thickened, seeping like poison through every breath. Blackwood felt her limbs heavy, her vision tunneling. Coughed, blood flecking his mask. Parker dropped his rifle, hands clutching his head as if voices screamed inside. Staggered, one knee buckling before he forced himself upright again. The seals were crumbling, piece by piece. His voice pressed harder. Drop your weapons, surrender, end this. Her rifle shook in her grip. For a terrifying moment she felt it slipping, her hand loosening, the command cutting through years of training. Drop your weapons. But then she saw his pale face, lips trembling, whispering words she barely caught. Don't leave me. Her chest broke, not from fear, from love. She gripped her rifle. We're not done. Smile faded for the first time, stubborn to the end. The battle surged again. Bullets screamed. Men cried out. The courtyard became hell. Blackwood fired until her rifle burned, until her body shook. Roared through his pain, fought like fury itself, Parker somehow pulling his weapon back up despite tears streaming down his face. They weren't winning, but they weren't surrendering. And maybe that was the point. The courtyard echoed with gunfire, with screams, with defiance. The compound clawed deeper, memories twisting, lungs burning. But still they fought. Blackwood's voice cut through the chaos, raw, breaking, but unyielding. You don't get to own us, not today, not ever. And for the first time's calm cracked. His hand tightened on his rifle, his eyes narrowed. His voice dropped low, almost a growl. Then you will die with them. And the valley exploded into its final storm. What does the end sound like? Is it silence? Or is it thunder that finally fades into a single, steady heartbeat? The courtyard burned with echoes. Bullets cracked stone, sparks danced off shattered statues, and voices rose, some human, some not. The valley itself seemed alive, whispering surrender in every gust of poisoned wind. Blackwood pressed herself against the broken fountain, rifle blazing, body trembling with exhaustion. Every shot was pain, every breath a blade. Beside her, fired from a sitting position, his ruined leg leaving him pinned but unyielding. Crouched low, covering with wild precision, his face set with grim fire. Parker sobbed as he shot, tears streaking dust, his cracked mask bleeding smoke into his lungs. They had no formation anymore. No plan, just survival, just resistance. Moved at the edge of it all, untouched, calm, his men circling like wolves. His voice slid through the storm, smooth as a blade. Look at them, Samara. They die piece by piece, yet you cling to hope. Do you think their last breaths will thank you, or curse you for dragging them here? Her jaw clenched, breath ragged. She wanted to scream. Wanted to believe her defiance meant something. But the truth, she didn't know. Maybe they would curse her. Maybe they already did. A round clipped her shoulder, spinning her against the stone. Pain flared hot, blood soaking fast. She bit down hard, refusing the cry that rose in her throat. Not for him. Shouted her name, firing until his rifle clicked empty. He threw it aside, drawing his sidearm. We can't hold. She forced herself upright, pressing the wound. Then we don't hold. We break them before they break us. Spat blood, eyes narrowing. And how the hell do you see that happening? Her eyes locked on, calm, certain, commanding even the air. Take him out, she said simply. Blinked, you think that's possible? I don't think, she rasped. I know this doesn't end until he does. The words lit something in them, a last flicker of resolve. They shifted fire, focusing not on the shadows but on the man at their center. Rounds sparked off stone near his feet, chipped walls at his flanks. For the first time he moved, ducking slightly, his calm slipping. He raised his own rifle, fired with surgical precision. A round slammed into Parker's chest, hurling him back. The boy gasped, choking, blood pooling fast. "No," Blackwood crawled to him, hands pressing the wound. His eyes found hers, wide, terrified. Don't let me." Her throat broke. "You're not leaving me, not you too." But she knew. She felt it in his pulse weakening under her fingers. His last breath shuddered, eyes glazing, and he was gone. Her scream tore the courtyard, a raw, broken sound that silenced even gunfire for a heartbeat. His voice cut the air like glass. "And so it begins again, one by one, just like Bosnia." Something inside her snapped. She rose, blood soaking her arm, rifle gripped like an extension of her fury. The compound clawed, the valley whispered, her own mind screamed. But she cut through it all with one burning thought. Not this time. She moved with reckless clarity, breaking cover, sprinting across open stone. Bullets chased her, dust exploded at her heels, but she kept going. Every step was defiance. Every heartbeat was vengeance. Roared, covering her with blind fire. Cursed and dragged himself upright, his rifle spitting sparks. Even, pale and fatting, raised a pistol with trembling hands. They gave her everything they had left, every ounce of breath and bullet, buying her those impossible seconds. Raised his rifle, their eyes locked across the ruin. "You can't escape what you are," he said. She fired. The shot cracked like thunder, slamming into his chest. He staggered, eyes wide, shock flashing across his face. Another shot followed, striking higher, tearing him back. He fell, dust curling around his body, rifle clattering from his grip. The courtyard stilled. Unit 113 faltered, their formation breaking. Without his voice, without his presence, they seemed suddenly smaller, human, vulnerable. The SEALs pressed, drove rounds into the faltering flank, emptied his last mag with fury, his pistol cracked until it clicked dry. One by one, his men dropped or fled into the smoke, shadows dissolving into ruins. And then silence. Not complete. Groans of the wounded, labored breaths, the drip of blood, but the storm of gunfire was gone. Blackwood stood frozen, rifle trembling in her hands, eyes locked on his body. She expected him to rise, expected another whisper, another command. But he didn't move. She staggered closer, every step heavy, every muscle shaking. She stood over him, blood dripping from her wound onto his uniform. His eyes stared lifeless at the sky, calm finally gone. And for the first time since Bosnia, she believed he was truly finished. Her chest heaved, her knees buckled, and she sank beside him, not in triumph but in collapse. Limped over, his face smeared with blood and dust. He looked down at the corpse, then at her. "It's done." She shook her head slowly. "No, it's never done." Because Bosnia still burned in her mind. Because Parker's body still lay cooling in the dust. Because blood still stained the stones. There was no victory here, only survival. The minutes crawled, groaned, collapsing beside, checked the sky, muttering curses at the empty comms. No extraction, no command, just silence. Finally, he sat beside her. They both stared at the ruin of. "You saved us," he said quietly. Her eyes flicked to him hollow. "I lost them." "You didn't lose them," said firmly. "They stood with you, they chose it, there's a difference." She wanted to believe him, needed to, but doubt gnawed deep. The valley was quiet now, its whispers fatting with the smoke, but inside her echoes remained. Mason, Parker, Bosnia, Afghanistan, every face she had carried. She lifted her eyes to the sky. Pale, washed of color, the kind of sky that didn't care who lived or died beneath it. Her breath trembled. Sometimes there were no answers, no neat endings, just fragments left behind. But as she sat there, bloodied and broken, surrounded by men who still breathed because she hadn't surrendered, she found one truth. Dignity doesn't scream, it doesn't beg, it doesn't argue with fear. Sometimes dignity doesn't speak. It simply acts. And she had acted,